Yeah, let's take a photo first.
Oh, yeah.
Yay.
Take a picture of all of you.
Yay, say hi to Lorita.
大家好不好?
All right, hello everyone. Hello everyone.
Hello. Wow,
Welcome to this great panel, and thanks for everyone to join this panel until noon. Later on, we're gonna provide a lot of food with you on the 14th floor and the warehouse 5, so don't miss out. So we're gonna have a great panel with 3 panelists, represent ecosystem builder, co-founder, and diversity background, and they're going to share a lot of experience. First of all, I want to introduce Guan Ning. She's the Chief of Sustainability Officer and Head of BD at Found the Planet, and also the leader of European Sustainability Blockchain Association. Welcome, Guan Ning.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And Dr. Lorita Chen is the CEO and co-founder of Blur. And also Phoebe, CEO of Likerland, also the founding team of Litecoin. I'm Karen, director of Sora Ventures, and we are happy to have you all here. Let's quickly introduce each other and see what we can know more from you guys. Okay, starting from Guan Ning.
Yeah, so hi everyone. My name is Guan Ning. I don't have a Western name. And then, I'm the co-founder of Fund the Planet. What we are doing is we power sustainability with blockchain technology. So what we do is we acquire endangered ecosystem, build up the team, tokenize it as an NFT, and then sell it to the companies. On the side, I also do lobbying for European commissions to provide opinions in terms of regulations and how can we use the technology to do more good for the world.
Dr. Lorita.
Hi, 大家好,大家好不好?
Yeah.
So I actually flew in from Hawaii for this, so thank you for having me. A big appreciation to obviously Taipei Blockchain Week. I've been getting really fat. Thanks to all of you. I've been eating nonstop. 每天去夜市,每一晚去夜市. So Smuggler is a composite of 2 made-up Swedish words, sma and bla. It's small furniture, or small asset. So basically, we develop metaverses, and we've been really fortunate to call legacy brands, government agencies, governments. We brought the entire government of Bhutan onto the metaverse. We also initiated a Metaverse for Good initiative because obviously women found it. We always think about community first and not about extracting value from all of you, but about value creation. So we'll be sharing more later. I also want to introduce my head of business, Suk. She's right there, so you can go talk to her as well. Suk, you can wave.
Raise.
Hey.
Yay.
Wave bigger, Suk. Yeah, right there. So thank you all so much for coming to She Scale Summit. So really excited to share with all of you later. Thank you.
All right, next, Phoebe.
Hey, hopefully I'm not holding everyone for lunch. So I'm Phoebe. I'm currently from Hong Kong. I'm building Likerland and Litecoin, which is working on decentralized publishing area. So you might see our logo in a lot of news sites in Hong Kong or Taiwan. So we've been building since 17, so it's been quite a while. And we've been serving publishers, media, and creators so that they can publish their blogs, books using blockchain to distribute, improve access, and also monetize their content. So yeah, that's what we've been working on.
Yeah, back to the topic. The first question I would like to ask is, what is the key point of the Web3 integration, which is our topic, and scalability for your industry or for your past experience? Can you share a little bit? Started from...
Yeah, sure. So I think for the scalability wise speaking, I'm in a very niche industry, right? Because it's about sustainability. And I think in this specific field, it's very important to bring the tangibility to the online users and how to really bring the feeling that you are really actually in the Amazon rainforest. We do design an interface to let users to engage with the property itself. And on the other hand, of course, we try to provide more up-to-date data and then make it up-to-date. Otherwise, no, because corporates and individuals do due diligence on you, right? So without a good product, I think that talking about scalability or strategy will be like a daydreaming. So I do believe before you wanted to scale your business, scale your product, you really think about what kind of value you are bringing on the table. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to have a drink first, then do the education, like Dr. Rarita.
I think, in fact, in many ways, I will first confess I probably feel like a geriatric mom. I have 25 pets, I'm 47, and I feel probably one of the oldest in this industry, so I'm constantly learning from all of you. But I think one of the key things that I always feel is that I don't think I'm doing anything differently in my business, whether, I started being an entrepreneur as a serial entrepreneur in the 90s. 刚才有一位 one of the panelists said, I was in university 8 years ago. I was in university 22 years ago, right? So just to put that in perspective. And that was my PhD. So like a really long time ago. But my point is, I don't think I do business any differently because fundamentally, I think scalability and integration is fundamental to any business, regardless Web 2 or Web 3. In fact, if anything, I'll give the analogy of, say, like a telco. Do I today even know how a telco runs? I don't know, but I know that it's important that AT&T and Verizon work together because there's no point having AT&T build up AT&T, and if you can only call AT&T customers and you can't call Verizon, I mean, that makes absolutely no sense. So I think interoperability and integration is fundamental and key to any business. And two, scalability, again, fundamental to any business because it's how you grow. You begin to grow your team. So for us at Smoldler, I think it's always about wanting to bridge Web 2 and Web 3 and Web 3 to Web 2 because I think it's important to drive mass adoption. You can't have anyone or anything want to jump on board if there's no mass adoption. So that's one of the reasons why when we started Smoldler, we worked with legacy brands. We did a really hard path of working with government agencies to get their buy-in, even though Web3 projects didn't like, why are you working with government agencies? But it's important to have key stakeholders because then they can move the needle. So we work with government agencies, we work with legacy brands, and we work with branded IPs like Airbus, for example, to get them on board because then we can drive mass adoption and we can drive scalability. So I think these things are really important in order for us to really push the needle forward between Web 2 and Web 3.
Yeah, I totally agree. One thing that I always say is there's no seed words for mass adoptions. So for us, especially when you serve a particular target audience, I guess 3 of us are serving a very different vertical. And for that audience, you really need to know where they are coming from, especially studying what their user experience is. Because the majority of users are still outside in Web 2, and I think it's very important to think the other way instead of forcing them to use the Web 3 way, which I think is the culture that we have been evolving internally. But when we go out, when we build product for mass adoptions, we actually need to look at what is the rest of the users are and how they behave using the product. So I guess that's important to brainstorm when we talk about integrations and also adoptions, especially for layman's had no idea about seed words, wallets. So I think one thing for me is hopefully we can build an application that my mom and dad can use without asking me what is blockchain, or maybe the best way is they can't really feel that it is on blockchain. Then that's the time when we talk about mass adoptions.
Yeah.
I read this really funny meme. There's like a sticker on somebody's, was it Sook's laptop? It says, "My mother thinks I work in Bitcoin." It kind of sort of tells you, like you need to drive that Web 2 and Web 3 adoption. So it's interesting.
Yeah. So talking about the scalability and integrations, what is the trend and challenge in the ecosystem right now? And you think how we can resolve it, and what is your challenge right now?
So I do think at the moment, like you say, mass adoption, right? So we do have a lot of money, even though it's a winter, crypto winter, we have a lot of money flowing in the space, but we don't have enough users. So we really need to think about how can we onboard more users from Web 2 to Web 3, and then education certainly is lacking, especially like women as well. And I don't want to generalize it. Is it the word? I don't want to generalize it. But the thing is, how we as leader or fellow listeners right here, we can onboard more of your friends, your communities, and then teach them how to use it. I think it's a fast way to break this barrier, right? And then second is the onboarding process from the technical side. I think sometimes this is also really frustrating because we initially was on Polygon. And Polygon, the onboarding process, I must say, wasn't the greatest. But why we choose Polygon was because back then was Ethereum was still proof of work, right? So if you are a sustainability project, you need to think consciously about what kind of infrastructure you want to build it on. And in the future, we do want to onboard to Ethereum. And that was like the thing. But then the user experience, how can you recreate the interface, even though from the back end, the technical side is so unfriendly from the blockchain dimension, but how can you build an interface to onboard more Web2 users to like feel like an email logged in, even though you use custodian wallet, for instance. And yeah, I think these two are the main challenge at the moment because we are in a space. A lot of people want to earn money, right? You want to become millionaire, you want to become billionaire, but before you become billionaire, you need to help to solve million people's problem, right? So how to solve it? Just make it dummy, just for dummy friendly, and then just onboard more users, education, community. I think that's it.
If I just follow up your point, then I think that is, one of the biggest challenges and one of the biggest, promises of being in a new industry is that it attracts either people who really want to go out and solve problems. That's what entrepreneurs do. We go in search of problems we want to fix. But then you have the opposite where you have very greedy people that provide fake solutions for problems that don't even exist or create problems and then invent those solutions. And so I think fundamentally for me at least, I think that the most important thing or the biggest challenge we need to fix is trust. If there's no trust in the industry, if there's no trust in the people you're working with, if there's no trust in even the folks, your peers, then it's really difficult to even build anything. And then anything else is based on false promises or, we've also just seen, we are building in the middle of a winter. And so you've already seen a lot of bad players and bad actors, and we don't have to have that conversation again because that's a whole other panel on its own. But there's so many bad actors that jumped in because of greed, and then also they prey on, to your point, the ignorance of the fact that a lot of people don't know, and so there's like a cult of you want to elevate all these thought leaders into some kind of knowledge reservoir, and there's so much misinformation out there. So I think restoring trust and having very credible people that stake their entire reputation on it is really important. That's one of the reasons why when Smobler first came out, we literally went for the hardest sort of vertical to go after, which is governments and legacy brands, because I really wanted to get their buy-in in order to prove that what we're doing is viable, because technology on its own is not bad, right? It's really not bad. I remember just a short anecdote. I was a director for many, many years, and I remember one of the plays that I directed was called The Vagina Monologues, 引导独白, 对吧? And then the government would call me and say, Loretta, can you please take away one word from the title? And I'd be like, the or monologues? Because fundamentally the vagina is not a bad word, right? It's where all of us come from. It's not a bad word. It's so fundamental, it's integral, and yet it's the way it gets communicated. So similarly, Web3 and what we're building is not a bad word. It's not distrustful, it's not dishonest. So I think restoring trust is really important. And then the second is diversity. Because I think when you have a variety of perspectives, only are you able to create products, services, technologies that benefit everybody. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm always so bullish and excited to come to any panel that is about women that support diverse ways of looking, because I think you need diversity. You can't just have pale, stale male in order to build things. And the third is to your point about creating sustainable ecosystems where people are really talking to each other. I think because we work in the metaverse, right? You need to have the infrastructure, you need to have the environment, you need to have the creator economy, you need to have the interfaces. So I think all of these layers really need to be communicating and talking to each other effectively.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Especially when we talk about trust, you're working on the area where it's top to bottom, where you have governments, big brands to get into this industry to make a presence so that you can build trust and promote this technology to the general public. And I think for us, it's more from a bottom-to-up approach, where we want to build trust and show people that blockchain can actually be usable outside of DeFi. I think that's one of the major challenges currently in the ecosystem, where 90%, hopefully less in the future, where we are more diverse in terms of applications. It's not just about trading. It's not just about DeFi or a quick game. So that you can actually have more people coming in, more diverse in terms of adoptions. So it has a more balanced out ecosystem. And also, I think it also reflects a culture where we had a wrong KPI for a lot of layer one infrastructure. Because when we talk about user base, what they're tracking is wallet addresses. So what happened is you just do a bunch of airdrops. So you have a bunch of user base where it's maybe a bot. So I think there are some KPI yet to be defined, and it should be defined by actually the product owner. And you have to recognize that beyond just what we are seeing. I still remember when I got into this industry back in like 17 and 18, whenever you launch a project, you have to submit a form to like some depths questionnaire. The first thing they ask isn't about the user base. It's about how many people in your Telegram. So that actually reflects we had a lot wrong KPI and like key objectives for how do you measure a success of a project. And I think that's not really helpful for a lot of product to grow, because when ventures or when VCs, they look at project, because they don't really know about the industry. So they will follow the guidelines of the general layer one infrastructure, which is a wallet address, token value lockup. So these are the measurement of users' adoptions wise. It's not really applicable, right? So I guess that should be improving. And hopefully we are moving in a different stage where we can grow like a startups and learn in a Web2 way to grow the Web3 ecosystem in general. Because at the end of the day, Web2 and Web3 is the same world. They're the same participant in this current age. So we do need to learn from both. It's not just mutually exclusive from each other. So hopefully we'll have a different discussion next year where we already got this stuff.
Yeah, totally agree more. So from the trust, from the diversity, from the mass adoption, we also want to know what is the target audience for your projects and how do you solve and attract more user onboarding? What is the process for you?
Should I go first?
Sure.
Okay, so our target audience is actually enterprise. So we are B2B business because in terms of sustainability, right now in Europe, as you can see a lot of brands over there, and an EU regulation is upcoming, which I'm doing lobbying as well. So what we are focusing on is how companies can actually deliver transparent and traceable impact. And to be honest, like blockchain technology, it's a tool, you know. But somehow, on the other hand, from the government side, they are really one of the key stakeholder in this world, in this kind of sustainability field or like global field as well. Like their opinion really matter because they are regulators, right? So we really need to get the regulators involved, and also our clients as business as well. So how can we facilitate the communication among three of us? And help our brand to communicate with the end users, because right now, what we can see in Europe is that the public, general publics, are really pay attention to the corporate responsibility. They really go online to check if you really contribute to the world, especially Gen Z. And if you look at the next 5 to 10 years, I believe you must know the data as well. Like Gen Z will hold most of the purchasing power. And are we really addressing the need for our future target audience, no matter you are B2B or B2C? This is one of the most important part. And second of all, how to attract more users, right? Like you need to create this tangibility to the world as well. How, like B2B is very hard compared to like B2C. B2C is also pretty hard as well, don't get me wrong. I mean, because we need to, the acquisition process is fairly long compared to B2C, and how to help them to onboard, to understand what the heck is blockchain. It's not scammer. We are not like, you know, this can be, like we are not growing cocaine in Amazon rainforest, for instance. Like how can we provide those data more up to date to the business and help them to communicate with their public? I think the educational journey is so long. I feel like every day when I'm working, I'm like aging 10 years somehow. Age is state of mind. So I feel like I'm 40, even though I'm fairly young. And yeah, that's everything I want to say. Government, you're a customer, be always human-centric, because without paying attention to the human, your surrounding, I don't think anything will work, because technology is technology, right? In the end, it's humans are controlling, like AI panels, what we were talking about, human error, bias, how to build your algorithm, like gender things, sexism, past data. So yeah, that's everything.
Thank you. I'm 47, but I feel like your age, and it feels very good. So I thank you all. I thank you all. I'm sucking up all that youthful energy. Thank you very much. I think we serve a variety of clients. I mean, we've shared. So the first is obviously governments, because getting their buy-in is really important. So we're often engaged with, the regulators, the Monetary Authority of Singapore. So governments is one. So for example, we brought the entire government of Bhutan onto the metaverse, because Bhutan is the first country in the world to actually believe in putting their entire national digital identity onto the blockchain. So they really believe in self-sovereign identity, and it's great to have a government that's so forward-thinking. So we're very thankful to be working with them. In fact, today is a launch of our soft launch of our metaverse for them. We did an official launch a couple of months ago, and today is the soft launch of the actual project. So that's one. Two is we work with brands. So brands as diverse as Airbus, because obviously they're also thinking about how do we attract a younger generation, right? Because when we just talk about the younger generation, it's not just about purchasing power and making them customers, but also hiring. That's also an issue, right? Because many of them are here, like you, wanting to create their own projects, want to do something hip and sexy. So legacy brands also need to think, how can they be hip and sexy to attract all of the top talents like you? So we also work with legacy brands that want to find a way to also create, say, like new NFT loyalty programs, for example. A lot of laggard brands or laggard industries like aviation industry are trying to see how they can work and create also like venture arms or work like startups to become more efficient. So that's also one of our big clientele or verticals that we work with. And the other is obviously the communities. So we also go out to shop for blue chip NFT projects to bring them on board. So we brought on board Clay Nation, which is the biggest project on the Cardano chain, and brought them on board and to drive interoperability. And we also brought on board 8chan, which is a women-founded NFT project that counts Randy Zuckerberg as one of the holders. So we also shop for projects with interesting communities. And we also create our own IPs, because that's how we have direct access to our community. And so we have community managers running our projects 24/7. So we built up a really successful one called Everest. And it really was inspired because this year is the 70th anniversary of the first ascent to Mount Everest in 1953. So for us at Smobler, we're always trying to drive really interesting narratives. So not just creating a project for the sake of. So like the Everest project is really to sort of inspire people, the spirit of adventure and conquest and challenging yourself and determination. So we created the Everest project this year. And I mean, we're really proud to say, like in 2 weeks, we have like 10,000 unique holders and players. So these are things that we're also committed to doing. So in short, to answer your question, it's governments, corporate clients, and as well as our own communities.
Thank you.
Yeah, compared to both of you, our target audience are all of you, basically. If you're on Instagram right now, then you definitely be one of our readers. So because we are in the media and field, so basically if you are a readers, you are a publishers, or you are a content creators, then that will be our target audience, where you can use our tool to publish your content much more efficient. And also we have 3 layers where we can improve the way you access to information, how you distribute information, and also how you monetize content. I do believe I'm born in a digital native era, which we are currently in a user-generated content period of time, where everyone is content creators. The barrier of content creators used to be very high, but right now, if you ask a kid what's their dream job, probably is YouTuber. So I think that's something that we want to build for the next generations or the current generation, how we consume the web. So on my t-shirts, it's written, not your key, not your content. So we want to change the way how people actually consume content, how they actually own their content, and how they produce content, so that in the future, you can actually prove in a way where the content that you created had integrity. Or the content that you're consuming right now, or the news that you saw every day, you can actually track where the sources are. So these are the 2 types of adoptions that we are seeing in our ecosystem. And in particular, lately, we've been building a bookstore, which is for books. So maybe you will say, oh, I don't read books these days. So yes, books is actually redefined in this modern era. So a lot of you might subscribe to a newsletter. So what if we can fractionalize the production of having books? So it's a collection of newsletters, let's say. And as a reader, I can actually have a piece of the content that I bought. So if you imagine or relate to your day-to-day habit today, you go to Netflix, you go to Amazon, or even the books that you buy online, it's never owned by you. Can you actually borrow to your friend? So all this kind of thing can be enabled through our protocol whenever you publish your things through blockchain. So it is transferable because it's actually owned by you. It's not owned by centralized platforms. So that your Kindle is not locked up on Amazon. Your Netflix movies, actually, you lost access to all the movies if you stop paying to Netflix, right? Because it's all about streaming these days. So is there a way where we can restore ownerships to individuals or customer like me that I can't afford to pay to subscribe to like 10 to 20 platforms? So I actually want to own the content that I pay for. If someday I stop paying for all these subscriptions, where are the content? So have you ever actually questioned about that? So if you do have the questions, then you can go check it out for our product, which is Litecoin and Litecoin. So I do believe there's something that you'll be fine interested on. So.
I wanted to back one point about the traceability of the content, really important because personal story. So I was browsing on Instagram, and I saw a really big influencer, around 20K, 30K tech influencer from Taiwan, and he's translating all the English content like with a Mandarin subtitle. And then do you remember a couple of months ago, Sam Altman got fired, from the OpenAI? And then the clickbait was, okay, Sam Altman's newest thought on like the thing, right? And then here's a source, like Google. So I checked the source, and then the speech was like 2017. Yeah. And I was like, dude, come on, this is not, up to date for. Why can you put like this kind of clickbait over there, right? And then what he said, he said, why are you so serious? I mean, dude, you are running a We Media. Yes, and then there are 20K people are listening to you, and how can you tell me why so serious?
Yeah, I think that's a problem for Asia market. So we do work with US. Actually, US has a much more awareness in terms of this because of AI. Especially when you see content right now, you don't even know it's from machine or human. Is there a way we can track the integrity? So that's one thing that we have been working with New York Times, which is through a project called Content Authenticity Institution, where actually the Western media, they already have an alliance where we work together on this, which the participants are Adobe, New York Times, Canon, Sony. So not just even content that are on the news, but also images that you saw. Is there a way we can track or provide a layer called the content authenticity layer? When you click on the photo, you can actually see the source of it, which is registered on blockchain, which is immutable. So it is traceable. So even someone updated that particular images, you had a version 1, version 2. So I think that's very important towards how we consume information, especially for the younger gen, when they have no judgment towards what they're reading on. So I think that's a very interesting area that we are currently working on.
And to add to both your points, because I sort of traverse between the East and the West, I want to humbly acknowledge that the West is not any more informed. It may seem like it is because they are very loud, but I will tell you that most times I'm terrified. I mean, if you look at the kind of people we have in the Electoral College, for one, we're not going to start the discussion here, it's scary. So the West is not as informed as us. In fact, many times I think I come to Asia to be inspired to see what we're doing here. I mean, the grass is always green on the other side, and so I always think it's very important to have that perspective, that we often always think that the grass is greener on the other side, but don't think that the West is any more informed. In fact, I often come here to be inspired and to learn, and then to hopefully take it back to the ignorant.
So hopefully, one of my personal goals is to bridge the West and the East as well. So we learn from working with this media to actually bring this awareness back to Asia, so that we have the merchant discussion. It's not that broken, right? You have to have the exchange of information, especially the social context is so different. Especially in Asia, it's much more dynamic than the West. And they are much resourceful. So is there a way we can balance both the information, the use cases, and the resources from the West? So yeah.
Yeah, what a great wisdom sharing for this panel. From European side, US side, Southeast Asia, Asia side, you got everything. Yeah, so a lot of potentials women here, because this is a She Scale Summit. The last question I want to share and let you guys sharing about how to become a woman's co-founder and what the challenge and advantage that you have, and you can share your experience with others.
Go first.
All right, Dr. Lolita.
I go first because I'm the oldest, right? So I go first because it's a confusion
no.
society.
Young
所以
in
我
heart,
前辈
young in
先。长江，昨天我听到一句话，长江后浪推前浪，不过后浪会死在沙滩上。我刚刚听到。
Fingers crossed.
So I think that let's talk about challenges. First, challenges is when you walk in the room, especially if I'm flanked by my COO and my CFO, they will always talk to my COO and CFO because they are men. So I think there is still that level of perception that we need to overcome. I think the fact that we have a She Scale Summit tells us that we are still the other, that we have to have another session on Saturday to celebrate our achievements and our voice, and to have something that is away from the main stage. Again, I'm saying that these are important things that we're doing. I acknowledge the entire team for doing that, but I really do hope for the one day that we don't have to say it's a male nurse and it's a female doctor or it's a female entrepreneur, that it's entrepreneur, it's a founder. It's not a female founder, because again, it connotes the other, like the dominant is the male founder. So I think that's one, changing perceptions, and all of us doing this is really important. Baby steps are really important, and so that's why I always want to participate in everything that espouses diversity. Changing perceptions is one. The other is obviously the funding. I think it's no secret, right? Recently, I'm part of the UBS Women Founder Award team, and less than 2% of VC funds go to women. I was listening to all my other top 10 women founders, and their projects are so incredibly exciting and interesting, from trying to support women in rural India to community microfinancing in Africa. The women are really changing the world, and yet they're not getting the kind of funding and support that they need, and there's still the perception that it's a charity a project, or that we are only supporting it because of diversity, as opposed to the fact that she really freaking deserves it. So I think that's the other. So the perception piece is huge, and it takes all of us to change those perceptions. I think it's really important. Then I think the other piece is also then, because it is a very nascent space, so I think there is a lot of education. So even we can't just go out and do business development or sales, right? I think a lot of it is the proselytization, the education, the awareness. So that already takes a lot of time. And I think the final piece is really just the mass adoption, getting people to recognize that what we are doing is the future, and we are actually already living it, and to just get more people on board, really.
For me is, I think first, there are three things. First is don't be afraid to speak up, especially in the context of Asia, I think, because a lot of heritage and cultural differences where a lot of girls or female in our field will be afraid to speak up of what you wanted to say, or in general, just in meetings. That's what I observe. So I think that's first thumb of rule. And second is don't make starting small stopping you from thinking big, because the positioning that we are at is actually at a very good location, no matter it's Hong Kong or Taiwan, where you have the huge resources from both the local governments, but also facing the West. So I think that's also important to be open-minded, to look at how Western works. And lastly, I do believe female do need to strive a little bit harder in terms of gaining knowledge base. So I will share a story where most of the time when I walk into an event, people would thought, are you a sales or marketing? So that's the bias of being a woman founder in the field. And I think it is important to just enrich your knowledge base. So when you talk about technical product or adoption-wise, you actually have that knowledge base to share, even you're not a coder. Or even you're a coder, try to speak up more so that you can break that image for the rest of us, right? I think that's something that I learned throughout these years in this space. And don't be deterred, even you had that conversations. It's just because they're ignorance. Because I do know some friends, they stopped going to events because they got something like that, right? So don't be afraid, just go out there, go give trial and error. I think that's equals to both gender, but I think particularly for us, we have that courage and step outside of your comfort zone every time. And just continue to do so and make great friends, and they will become your courage to go to more events and showcase your work. So I guess that would be my 2 cents.
Yeah, totally. Like stay with the positive friends, positive vibe. Of course, it's really important for the mental health as well, especially for women. We have hormone, we have like, so many different things going on in our body. First thing. Second one is that statistics speaking, like when men are talking about their achievement, statistics speaking again, they normally overstate their achievement. But when you look at girls, actually, statistics speaking, our academical achievement or like a lot of business achievement, actually we can outperform the male, right? So like back to the point, we really need to speak out when you really have a competence, you have opinion for you on the table, and then, I don't know, before you go on a speech, probably go to the toilet and then, just do that posture, right? Fake it until you make it and stuff, because you can really do it. And even though only 2% of the funding goes to female company, female entrepreneurs, but we are still having 2%. You are not alone. So if you really wanted to go like create your empire, create a new tool, solve millions people's problem, then just go out for it. Find a community like the amazing woman sitting right here, including Karen as well. And second is the communication. So as a woman leader, communication is fairly different from male. Sometimes you think, okay, we really have to think about how male are talking on the table. Sometimes for us, me personally, I do fact-based. So if I look at my colleagues, what's your KPI, if you achieve it or not, no matter you're a woman or male, because then I will be biased, right? So here's the KPI, and then if you didn't kind of like perform well, then let's just have another talk. Let's talk about how to improve the performance, right? So for the female, I think that is a really important skill, and be soft, but also be harsh at the same time. Still remain charming. Yeah, that's the point.
Exactly. Yeah, thank you for everyone for sharing. And I saw a lot of people like doing this, can agree more. This is why Taipei Blockchain Week starting this year for She Scale Summit, to let more women, females can share their experience and have experience with all of the audience. And thank you for listening and coming. Today, we still have whole days ongoing and 14 floors Sora Summit. Don't miss out, and thank you for having us today.
Thank you, Karen.